Jamal and Denise Thompson, a successful black couple in their early 30s, had worked tirelessly to reach this point. Jamal, a tech entrepreneur, had recently sold his startup, while Denise, a renowned pediatric surgeon, had just been promoted to chief of surgery at a leading hospital. Their combined achievements had culminated in a substantial nest egg, and they were eager to invest in a home that reflected their hard-earned success. With excitement bubbling, they scheduled a viewing with the listing agent, Margaret Whitman, a seasoned realtor known for her dealings in high-end properties. However, upon meeting them, Margaret's demeanor shifted. Her warm smile faded, replaced by a curt nod. "Apologies," she said, glancing at her watch. "There's been a scheduling mix-up. The unit isn't available for viewing today." Confused, Jamal responded, "But we confirmed this appointment 2 days ago." Margaret shrugged. "Things change. Perhaps another time." As they left, they noticed a white couple entering the building, greeted warmly by Margaret. Denise's heart sank. It was evident they were being dismissed, not due to scheduling, but because of the color of their skin. Determined not to let this slight deter them, the Thompsons shared their experience with close friends, Marcus and Tasha Reynolds, another black couple who had faced similar challenges in the housing market. Over dinner, the four discussed the systemic barriers black families often encountered in real estate. Marcus, an investment banker, leaned in. "What if we approach this differently? Instead of buying a unit, what if we bought the entire complex?" The idea was audacious, but the more they discussed it, the more it made sense. With their combined resources and connections, they could form an investment group, purchase the property, and ensure equal housing opportunities for all. The Thompsons and Reynolds reached out to their network, gathering a group of 10 black professionals from various industries: law, finance, tech, and healthcare. Each member brought unique skills and capital to the table. They formed Unity Holdings, a real estate investment firm with a mission: to combat housing discrimination and promote inclusivity. Their first target, Magnolia Heights. Unity Holdings approached the property's current owner, a real estate conglomerate looking to divest from residential properties. After weeks of negotiations, they agreed on a purchase price. The deal was sealed, and Unity Holdings became the new owner of Magnolia Heights. News of the acquisition spread rapidly. Margaret Whitman, unaware of the buyers' identities, was informed that the new owners wished to meet with all existing tenants and staff. She arrived at the meeting only to be greeted by the Thompsons and Reynolds at the helm. Margaret's face turned pale. You're the new owners?" Jamal nodded. "Yes, and we have some changes in mind." Under Unity Holdings' leadership, Magnolia Heights underwent significant changes. They implemented fair housing policies, ensuring that all potential tenants were treated equally, regardless of race or background. Community programs were introduced, including financial literacy workshops, mentorship programs for youth, and health clinics. The complex became a beacon of diversity and inclusion, attracting residents from various walks of life. The once exclusive enclave transformed into a vibrant community where everyone felt welcome. Margaret Whitman's discriminatory practices didn't go unnoticed. Several prospective buyers came forward, sharing similar experiences. Unity Holdings compiled these accounts and filed a formal complaint with the Georgia Real Estate Commission. An investigation ensued, leading to Margaret's license being suspended. The case garnered media attention, sparking a broader conversation about systemic racism in the real estate industry. The Thompsons and Reynolds didn't just buy a property, they ignited a movement. Unity Holdings expanded, acquiring more properties and promoting inclusive housing across Atlanta. Their story inspired others to challenge the status quo and advocate for equity in all sectors. Discrimination can close doors, but unity, determination, and vision can build new ones. When faced with injustice, turning pain into purpose can lead to transformative change. As Unity Holdings continued its mission, they set their sights on a historic neighborhood facing gentrification. But as they prepared to make their next move, an anonymous threat arrived: "Stop now, or face the consequences." The letter arrived without a return address, typed in bold letters on plain white paper. Its message was clear. Unity Holdings' mission was unsettling entrenched interests. Denise read it aloud, her voice steady but eyes filled with concern. "They're trying to intimidate us." Marcus clenched his fists. "They won't succeed. We've come too far to back down now." Jamal nodded. "Agreed. But we need to be strategic. Let's increase security and document everything. News of the threat spread, and the community responded with overwhelming support. Residents organized a Unity Day rally at Magnolia Heights, showcasing solidarity and resilience. Local artists painted murals celebrating Black excellence, while musicians performed songs of hope and resistance. Speeches highlighted the importance of reclaiming spaces and narratives. Denise addressed the crowd. This isn't just about property. It's about dignity, legacy, and the right to exist without fear. While reviewing property records for their next project in the historic Sweet Auburn district, Tasha discovered a pattern. Properties were being bought and left vacant, leading to blight and decreased property values. Digging deeper, Unity Holdings uncovered a shell corporation, Heritage Futures LLC, purchasing these properties. Further investigation revealed ties to influential developers and politicians, aiming to gentrify the area under the guise of urban renewal. Jamal realized this isn't just about us. It's a coordinated effort to erase our history and culture. Unity Holdings decided to expose the scheme. They collaborated with investigative journalists, sharing their findings. The story made headlines. Developers' secret plan to gentrify historic Black neighborhoods uncovered. Public outcry was swift. Protests erupted, demanding accountability. City officials launched investigations into Heritage Futures LLC and its affiliates. As Unity Holdings gained momentum, retaliation followed. Their office was vandalized, and cyber attacks targeted their systems. Personal information of members was leaked online. Despite the challenges, the team remained undeterred. They implemented enhanced security measures and continued their work, driven by a shared purpose. One evening, as Jamal locked up the office, he noticed an envelope slid under the door. Inside was a photograph of his family, taken without their knowledge, accompanied by a note, "You were warned. Next time, we won't just watch." Jamal's hands trembled, but his resolve hardened. He knew the fight was far from over. That night, Jamal sat silently in his study, the photo trembling in his hand. Denise stood in the doorway, arms crossed, trying to appear calm, but her voice cracked. "Do we need to stop before this gets worse?" Jamal looked up, eyes hardened. "If we stop now, then what? We teach them that fear works, that we'll trade justice for comfort?" He slid the photo across the table. "Number, we dig deeper, we finish what we started." Marcus and Tasha were already tracing digital footprints from the last attack. They discovered a surveillance company contracted by Heritage Futures LLC, the same shell corporation buying up Black neighborhoods in secret. That company, Iron Hill Solutions, had ties to a private security firm known for urban risk management, code for intimidating low-income communities ahead of redevelopment. Tasha leaned back, stunned. "This isn't just gentrification, it's organized displacement." Marcus added, "And it's not just Atlanta. They've got holdings in DC, Detroit, even Oakland." Jamal leaned forward. "We're not just fighting real estate anymore. We're fighting an entire machine." Unity Holdings began rallying activists, journalists, and community leaders in each affected city. They launched Number, Protect Our Roots, a campaign exposing the tactics of Heritage Futures and Iron Hill Solutions. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Town halls turned into community rallies. Generations came together. Grandparents who remembered redlining, Gen Zers with cameras and platforms ready to go live. In every room, the message was the same. We're not leaving, and we're not for sale. But even as the movement grew, something was off. Emails were being leaked, meeting schedules exposed. Protest routes were mysteriously preempted by countermeasures. Someone was feeding information to the enemy. It didn't take long to find out who. Rafi, Unity Holdings' junior analyst, was caught forwarding files to a personal email. Files that included property research, internal plans, and even security details. Cornered in the office, he broke down in tears. "They offered me $100,000, he sobbed. "They said you were radicals, dangerous. They said if I helped them slow you down, I could walk away clean." Marcus nearly lunged across the room, but Jamal held him back. "You're not just a traitor," he said coldly. "You're a tool, and the worst part, they used your fear like they always use ours." Rafi was fired immediately, and the team locked down all systems. But the damage was done. Despite the breach, Unity Holdings moved forward with a major deal, purchasing a block of historic homes in Sweet Auburn to preserve and restore them with community input. But just days before closing, disaster struck. A fire ripped through the block, 5 homes engulfed in flames. No one was hurt, but the buildings, most over 100 years old, were declared unstable by city inspectors the next morning. When Marcus visited the site, an old man from the neighborhood pulled him aside. "You think this was an accident?" he said, voice hoarse. "They did this back in the 80s too. Fire clears the way faster than paperwork." The arson was under investigation, but Unity Holdings knew the truth. This wasn't about blight. It was about erasure. That night, Jamal received a private video on his phone. It showed a masked figure standing near one of the burned homes. They held up a copy of Unity Holdings' Sweet Auburn proposal. Then they spoke. "You burned your legacy trying to save theirs. Back off, or we'll light the match closer to home." Jamal watched the screen go black. Then he turned to Denise. "They just made it personal again." She nodded. "And now, we make it public." The next morning, the headlines read like a coordinated assault. Black investors linked to Sweet Auburn arson. Anonymous sources raise questions about Unity Holdings' intentions. Real estate rebels or opportunists. Jamal's phone buzzed non-stop. Clients, reporters, former colleagues, even family calling in shock and fear. "How did this flip so fast?" Denise asked, staring at the TV. "They're trying to control the narrative," Marcus said bitterly. "Make us the villain so no one asks who really benefits from those homes being gone." Tasha added, "And they're not just spinning stories, they're targeting our credibility." Rafi, the former analyst who had betrayed Unity Holdings, agreed to meet under the condition of anonymity. In a quiet diner outside Atlanta, he leaned in and whispered, "They told me you were getting too close, that your name was being added to a list, that once you went public about the shell companies, they'd flip the script." Jamal's eyes narrowed. "What list?" "They call it the Clean Slate Initiative. It's not just digital blacklisting, it's reputation assassination, false accusations, planted evidence, character leaks." Tasha slammed her hand on the table. "So, they're building a narrative to destroy us before we can bring them down." Rafi slid over a flash drive. "This has everything they gave me. Scripts, instructions, timelines. You'll see how deep this thing really goes." Armed with evidence, Unity Holdings went to an independent black-owned media outlet. The Justice Lens, known for exposing corruption, the mainstream wouldn't touch. Within 48 hours, they launched a docu-series titled Burned Out: The Hidden Hand Behind Urban Erasure. It included leaked emails, security footage, and community testimony. The series went viral, sparking national outrage. Suddenly, people saw what was really happening, how entire neighborhoods were being systematically wiped out under the guise of development. Protests erupted across cities. Black-owned businesses began organizing, and politicians who once looked the other way were now under scrutiny. But Unity Holdings wasn't done. They identified a real estate conglomerate named Meriton and Company, operating as the financial arm behind the shell corporations like Heritage Futures. Meriton and Company had ties to federal infrastructure grants, political donors, and offshore tax shelters. Marcus discovered a hidden development plan labeled Project Reframe, Transitioning Inner City Spaces for the New Economy. Translation: gentrify, sanitize, and profit, at the expense of black communities. "They're planning to redevelop Sweet Auburn into a tech district," Denise said, scrolling through the blueprints. "No cultural preservation, no affordable housing, just glass towers and gated condos." Jamal leaned back, his voice steady. "Then we expose them, loudly." Unity Holdings secured a live interview on a major morning news show. Jamal and Denise were set to speak on national TV, telling their story and unveiling Project Reframe. But just as the cameras rolled, the anchor switched gears. "Before we begin, Mr. Thompson, do you care to comment on this leaked court document?" On screen appeared an unsealed civil lawsuit, filed just hours before, accusing Jamal of insider trading and racketeering. The anchor turned sharply. "The plaintiff claims you used insider knowledge to manipulate land sales in your favor. Is that true?" Jamal stared at the screen, stunned. "This is a lie," he said. But Denise's phone was already buzzing. The same lawsuit had been forwarded to every news outlet and major financial backer of Unity Holdings. Their funding was being pulled, accounts frozen. "This is it," Marcus said backstage. "They're activating their nuke." That night, Jamal sat alone in the Unity Holdings office. Everyone else was scrambling to respond, to salvage what they could. He watched the flames on the screen, not real ones this time, but digital, burning through his reputation. Then a message popped into his inbox. Subject: "I know where it started." Sender: anonymous. The message read, "If you want the truth about Meriton & Co. and why they're targeting you, meet me at the old Prescott train station. Come alone, midnight, or walk away forever." Jamal stared at the screen. He closed his laptop, checked his watch, and stood up. Voice echoed from the shadows. "You came." A figure stepped forward, hooded, face mostly hidden. Female voice, sharp, controlled. Jamal raised his flashlight slightly. "Who are you?" She removed the hood. "My name is Alicia Ward," she said, "and I used to work inside Meriton & Company." Jamal's breath caught. "Ward, as in?" She nodded. "Franklin Ward is my father." Alicia led Jamal into a small, crumbling office inside the station. There, she placed a hard drive and a thick file onto the table. "I left 6 months ago. Couldn't stomach what they were doing, but I didn't realize how deep it went until I found out they had a list." Jamal sat, eyes locked on hers. "A list? Names, people targeted for removal, not just from neighborhoods, but from public life. Leaders, activists, journalists, anyone who stood in the way." She flipped open the file. On the first page, Miles Thompson, designated disruptor. "My father signed this," she said. "He marked you long before you even formed Unity Holdings." Jamal's hands shook. "They've been watching me since before Magnolia Heights. Long before. They have files on your mother, your old nonprofit, even your college activism. They don't fight back with bullets. They use scandal, burned homes, character assassination. Then, when no one's looking, they build." Alicia revealed something even more damning. A 2012 land acquisition deal between Meriton & Company and several city officials that displaced over 200 black families in West Atlanta. It was buried under dozens of shell companies, hidden behind federal grant funding. But what made it worse? One of the signatories was Jamal's former mentor, a city development director who once encouraged Jamal to invest in real estate. "He didn't just fail to protect you," Alicia said. "He sold you out years ago. They've been preparing to either use you or ruin you." Jamal stood silently. His entire career, his rise, was not in spite of the system. It had been calculated, controlled, weaponized. Back at Unity Holdings, Denise, Marcus, and Tasha were holding emergency calls with their legal team. The lawsuit was gaining traction, sponsors were pulling out, and news anchors were now openly questioning the organization's legitimacy. When Jamal returned and dropped Alicia's file on the table, Denise opened it with trembling hands. This is enough to put people in prison," she whispered. "Not just people," Jamal said. "Entire corporations, city departments, elected officials." Marcus looked up. "So, what's the plan? You want to leak it?" Jamal nodded slowly. "No more filters, no more waiting for reporters. We go live, raw. Every document, every name." Denise hesitated. "Jamal, if we release this, we don't just lose the business. We paint targets on all our backs." "I know," Jamal said, eyes steady. "But if we don't, someone else's family ends up with their house on fire, or worse." The team started preparing for the release. Rafi, the ex-analyst who had earlier betrayed them, returned seeking redemption. He offered to run the secure upload and help verify the documents before public release. But when Marcus reviewed the server logs 2 hours later, something was off. The files had been copied, mirrored to another server. "Rafi," Marcus growled, "where did you send our data?" Rafi stumbled. I didn't mean..." Jamal grabbed his collar. "Who's paying you now?" Rafi panicked. "You don't understand. They're threatening my family." Before anyone could react, Tasha's phone buzzed with a breaking news alert. "Unity Holdings under federal investigation. Allegations of data theft, wire fraud, and corporate espionage. Their enemies had used their own whistleblower plan to frame them, again. The headlines were rewriting the story before it could even be told. Jamal dropped into a chair, his face buried in his hands. Alicia stepped forward, pale and breathless. "There's one more thing I didn't tell you," she said quietly. Everyone turned toward her. "I know where they're storing the physical documents, the hard copies, contracts, signatures, proof that can't be erased or hacked." Marcus frowned. "Where?" She hesitated. "An underground vault, owned by Meriton, hidden beneath an old city records building downtown. But it's protected. Armed security, biometric access." Denise narrowed her eyes. "You're saying we have to break into a vault?" Alicia nodded slowly. "You want the truth? You're going to have to steal it." Jamal looked at her, a fire rising in his chest. "Then tell us everything." The team gathered in the dim back room of a bookstore that doubled as their makeshift war room. Alicia spread out blueprints of the old Atlanta Records Administration building, where the vault was hidden beneath layers of legal offices, fake storage units, and coded hallways. "We've got one shot," she said. "This vault contains paper contracts, handwritten logs, and physical black books, documents they never digitized because they knew digital files could leak." Denise looked up. "And if we get caught?" Alicia didn't blink. "Then we vanish. But if we don't try, everything you've built burns." Jamal placed a hand on the table. "Then we don't fail." Under the cover of a Sunday night thunderstorm, the team slipped into the city records building. Disguised as maintenance workers, Alicia and Marcus disabled the security grid using a stolen access code from her father's private server. Denise kept eyes on the perimeter from a rented delivery van. Jamal led the final descent into the sub-level corridors with Tasha. There, hidden behind a sealed fireproof panel and biometric lock, sat the vault. Alicia stepped up. "It's coded to my father's DNA, but his daughter's? That'll get us halfway in." She pressed her thumb and let the scanner read her iris. The light blinked green. The door hissed open. Inside were rows of black binders and red-sealed folders labeled with city names. Atlanta, Baltimore, Detroit, New Orleans, each one filled with evidence of mass displacement, forged approvals, and illegal property seizures. Then Jamal saw it, a folder labeled Unity Holdings, Counter Strategy. Inside were scripts, fake lawsuits, doctored surveillance footage, plans to destroy them from the start. Tasha whispered, "They were never afraid of us buying buildings. They were afraid we'd wake people up." Within 24 hours, Unity Holdings released everything. No deals with media networks, no waiting for permission. They dumped every scanned document, every photo, every signature online, free for the public to see. The story exploded. Meriton and Company tried to deny, then deflect, then disappear. But it was too late. Federal prosecutors launched an investigation. The Department of Housing and Urban Development issued emergency injunctions. Cities across the country called for new reviews of redevelopment contracts. Franklin Ward, Alicia's father, resigned and was later indicted for conspiracy, fraud, and civil rights violations. Months later, Jamal stood at a ribbon-cutting ceremony in Sweet Auburn. Behind him, once burned homes were now fully restored, turned into community-owned housing for legacy residents who had once been priced out. Unity Holdings was no longer just a company, it was a movement. They launched an initiative called the Roots Project, reclaiming black neighborhoods, restoring them with care, and ensuring the people who built those communities could remain in them. Denise became a national speaker on equitable development. Tasha took over Unity's legal defense arm. Marcus started a foundation for young black real estate developers. And Jamal? He went back to that place where it all began, the front gate of Magnolia Heights. He stood there quietly one evening, watching a young black couple holding hands, smiling, walking in for a tour. No one stopped them. No one turned them away. They belonged. They said we didn't belong. They said we didn't understand business, didn't understand money, didn't understand the rules. But we understood something deeper. We understood home. We understood what it means to be rooted, to carry history in your veins, to build with your hands what others try to tear down with pens and policy. They tried to burn our legacy. But they forgot one thing. You can't kill a seed, because when you bury us in lies and pressure, we don't disappear, we grow. So, here's the lesson. When the world tells you you're not enough, become so undeniable that they have to rewrite the story. Because justice isn't given, it's built, brick by brick, home by home, generation by generation. And no matter how many doors they try to close, we'll always find a way to walk through.